Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I want to do a little disassembly and maintenance on this little guy right here. This is the Spyderco Knives Drunken. At the same time, I'm going to do a little bit of first impressions. I actually did this for the Spyderco Smock, and it seemed to be something people appreciated. That way people who are watching this down the road get the disassembly, and also people who are really curious about the piece get the first impressions as well. Now, here's the funny thing. I actually have done this disassembly already this afternoon. This literally just came to me from Spyderco. I picked it up at the post office box, and it was indeed from the Spyderco, and this was what was in the package, and that's great. And I even did a disassembly on it, but it turns out that disassemblies work way better if you actually start the camera recording. Detail, important detail though. So I've already done this disassembly, but as a part of this, I'm going to clear up a major misconception that a number of people have had. In fact, when I first posted this on the Instagram, maybe an hour or two ago, there erupted a whole debate as to whether this guy was on bearings or phosphor bronze washers. Well, it turns out the correct answer is indeed phosphor bronze. So that's kind of cool. But what we can see when we pop this guy open a second time is a couple of things. We see a full titanium backspacer here. We see the carbon fiber scale actually has a full steel liner underneath it, which is kind of cool. And, you know, adds a little bit to the beefitude of it. And that way, by the way, the bearings, the washers are not spinning against carbon fiber, which is not necessarily a great thing. We see a full lock bar insert with over-travel stop, but most importantly, we see copious amounts of internal milling, making this guy, I think this may be the most intricately machined interior I've ever seen on a Spyderco. This is actually really impressive in that domain. The pop of this knife open, I mean, you feel that it's light in the hand, that's cool. But at the same time, you don't really, I don't know, you don't get the sense until you really pop it open. So, anyways, there's that. I'm going to go ahead and just wipe off the oil I've put on there. I didn't put too much because I realized, crap, I'm not filming. But anyways, we're cleaning that up. But I don't have to do so much cleanup. But in terms of future disassembly maintenance, clean this part up, you do some lubrication, and then you call it a freaking day, right? And you are good to go. In terms of the overall elsewhere of it, you can see here a very reflective blade here, which is nice. There is good machining, very rounded edges. They've done, I think, kind of a mirror wash sort of approach, or something that they've done has knocked down all the sharp edges. Sometimes the Tai-Chung Spydercos can have some sharp edges. This guy does not. Machining-wise, it is just on point, which is cool. Go ahead, clean this off. If you're curious about any of the tools I'm using, check my knife disassembly toolkit video. There you go. Alrighty, so I'm going to go ahead and pop this, do a little bit of lubrication. Actually, no, I don't need to do lubrication on that side. This appears to be the side that spins with the blade, so I'll drop you here. I will drippity drip some lubrication right there. Beautiful. A little bit onto the detent ball, a little bit into the detent hole here. That should get us nicely lubricated. Drop the blade into position here. Oh, there, that fell through. This is very strongly desirous to come out. It's worth noting, though, that this is a D-shaped little unit here, so it has to go in the hole in a very specific orientation. That may seem like a... Oh, bro, come on, you're killing me over here. It may seem like a very weird little detail, but actually that prevents these screws from becoming free spinning and makes them much easier to undo, which is nice. Okay, this side spins. I'm just looking at the wear pattern on the washer to get a sense of which side is spinning, which side is not. That way I can I don't have to do the break-in twice, and it's probably better if I put a stop pin into the knife. It's a little detail, but usually stop pins help with the lockup. So that's a joke. They are crucial. I'm not a brilliant man. So what we're going to go ahead and do is put some Loctite on these back screws here. They were shipped without any kind of thread locker from the factory. And so I'll go ahead and do it out of an abundance of caution. Pop that in there. Pop this in here. Like I said, super better if I actually go on ahead and hit record. Makes things easier. Uh-oh. I have caused a little problem here, my friends, in that I went ahead and I locked down the back part here before I put the before I took the tension out of the lock bar. So I actually need to pop this loose one more time here and then reseat the blade. Darn. Need to reseat the blade, because you can see here the lock bar insert is actually hung up on the blade. Guys, this is just not my freaking day, is it? Let's pop this loose here. You know, if you didn't know any better, you'd almost say I was drunken in doing this disassembly. Okay. So that's what you get, by the way, from putting the stop pin in after you go ahead and put everything else together. Okay, now let's pop this in one more time here. Slide that through. Okay, make sure everything stays in position. Our lock bar is wanting to drift. We do not want it to drift. I have, whoop, what did I drop? I dropped the screw. Guys, I swear I'm sober. This knife is living up to its name. Holy crap, where is this screw? Or where is whatever dropped? Painful. Come on, there it is. Little bastard. All right. Let us go ahead and replace this. Lock bar is in position here. And while I'm at it here, I'm going to go ahead and just drop in this little guy here. There was a little bit of thread locker from the Taichung. It's kind of it's a weird thread locker they use. It's very sticky. Like it doesn't take much to undo it, but it's kind of gummy when it pops loose rather than like cracky. That makes sense. So, whatever, not a big deal. What I just did there is I'm using my thumb to reposition everything such that the, oh, don't fall out, you little bastard, such that everything stays in alignment there. Let's go ahead. Actually, I already have the thread locker on there, so I'll tighten this down here. Then use this screw over here. Here you go, screw. Pop into position. We are quite nearly done here. At that point, I will give you some first impressions. And we are too loose here, I believe. Yeah, we are way too loose. Tighten this down. Okay, I over-tightened that down. Back this up a little bit. There we go. Whoa, that's smoother. I don't know what they were using from the factory, but that's better. This is a nice action. Okay, so that's how you disassemble and maintain your Spyderco Drunken there. It's actually quite straightforward. It's much like any other, washer knife from Taichung. But it was worthwhile, I think, to show off the amount of internal milling we've got going on there. Now I'm going to jump into the second phase of this video. And again, if you're just watching to check this out later, my full review will come up. But let me give you some of my first impressions on the pocket knife here. So that way the folks at home who are hungry for more drunkenness are able to get that. So, very first impressions are, holy crap, this machining. I'm going to see if I can zoom in a little bit, show you off this carbon fiber. Yeah, that's serious business. I have not seen a carbon fiber finish like that with this degree of intricacy. It's kind of intense. I can totally now understand why it's called the Drunken, and this is absolutely not visible in any way, shape, or form in your generalized, pictures and product things. And the cool thing is that they have mirrored this same pattern in the titanium on the other side. And you can see, depending on the angle you're looking at, because there's a lot of topography to this. Depending on the angle you're looking at here, it is more or less apparent, but it's really neat. This machining doesn't carry through in this little area, but that's kind of cool. That's a very nice little touch. Similarly, you've also got a very nice little backspacer here. You've got a lanyard hold. It doesn't suck. That's nice. You have, overall, they did this big old pivot here that's kind of Sinkovichy. You have a beautifully polished blade of S9DV right here. There we go. See? And absolutely very, very nice looking, very nice designs and whatnot, maker's marks. The smoothness of this is great. This is a very, very smooth knife. It's hard to quantify phosphor bronze smoothness because it's not the same thing as like drop shuttiness, although in this case it kind of closely is. And I imagine once this wears in, it's going to be even better. But this is as smooth as, for instance, the Spyderco Sleesh Bowie, and it's a different kind of smooth, I would say, than the Shabazz. The Shabazz at some level has more of a hydraulic feeling, and this is a little glassier. This is a very, very smooth knife. There is no freaking doubt about that. Yet it does still flick open with absolutely zero problem. It's a little trickier to get your finger in there, and I imagine if you have big fingers, you're not going to be able to finger flick it there, but you can do it. As a matter of fact, that's a thing. So my overall impressions of this initially here, oh, that's the other thing I wanted to show you. Look at this freaking blade. Look at the edge thickness there. This is crazy, crazy thin behind the edge. It's really impressive, even, you know, by Spyderco standards, by the way, size comparison, Spyderco Delica. And actually, let me pull it up against the Spidey Chef as I nail my freaking knee on the chair. Guys, I swear to you, I'm sober. I really am. But you can see here, actually, there's very similar ideas in the Spidey Chef here, but this is just sort of... This is like the Maybach to the Spidey Chef's Benz. It is just a step way the heck up. In terms of thinness behind the edge, I would say the Drunken is actually very slightly thinner, which is going to make it an overall blade thickness. They're pretty analogous. The Drunken may cut slightly better than the Chef, which is kind of cool. Take this guy off the table for the moment. And of course, being S90V, I don't have a strong amount of experience with S90V run this thin because no one freaking does it. But I'm really looking forward to gaining some more. In terms of fit and finish, basically perfect. Haven't yet found anything. I mean, maybe the fact that the clip is sticking up a little bit here. I don't know if that's intentional or not. That may just come from the contouring. I don't know what the situation is there. So my overall impressions of it are actually fairly positive, and as I've handled it more and as I've spent more time looking at the details, I am more impressed with it. The elephant in the room on this guy is the price tag. It's a very expensive knife, coming in around $400. But now looking at it more closely, and especially popping it open and seeing all of that internal milling, and then looking at the detailing of this, I'm not surprised if it actually cost a lot of freaking money to make. This, in terms of machine time, is very, very high relative to something that's, you know, slab-sidey titanium. So at that level, I don't, you know, whether the price is justified, I'll leave to my final review, but at that level, I can kind of get it's where it's at. There are two things that I know I'm not a huge fan of already, the biggest one of which is the clip. The clip, unfortunately, is very, very low. Here, I'll compare it to well, here, your basic Spyderco clip here. You can see this has very, very little room underneath it, which means that on my normal pants, it actually wants to stop right about here. And it is also unfortunately positioned right on top of all of this topography with sort of a sticky-uppy tip here rather than the flattened tip that you often see on Spydercos. So the clip is probably the least convincing part of this knife. I think it looks great with the knife, but in terms of functionality, there's some sacrifice there. I'm not a big fan of this clip, and I do kind of wish it were a more standard Spyderco clip so I could swap it out with something else. But, you know, this may be a case of designing, well, what's their thing? We design for the hand, not for the eye. This may be a case of designing more for the eye, and in fact, that brings me to the other issue that I'm not a huge fan of. Ergonomically speaking, this little hump right here is not amazing. There are ways that I can grip it, and as I've kind of spent more time with it over the last 2 hours, so first impressions, but as I've spent more time sitting there on the couch with it, you know, I've gotten better at gripping it in good ways, but ergonomically speaking, this is not an instantly falls into your hand in the proper positioning knife. So the ergos, we'll see how I feel about that in the grand scheme over some actual longer-term use, doing some actual cutting with it and such. Let's see if that helps. But overall, my impressions of it are actually relatively positive. I don't love the clip, and the ergos, I don't know if I'm going to adjust or whether it's just, that's not the main goal here. But overall, the machining quality on this is just amazing. And especially now that I've done this cleanup here, this action has gotten unreal smooth. That's really impressive. And so action-wise, this is a washer knife that is just in line with anything out there in terms of washer knives. So there you go. Those are my, I swear to God, I'm sober, drunken thoughts right here. So anyways, I hope this has been interesting to you. Like I said, let me know in the comments if you like these first impression videos. But mostly, I hope that you have yourselves a wonderful rest of your day and that the rest of your day goes better than the last 14 minutes of mine have. Not a brilliant man. Have a good one, everybody. Bye now.